Oh, is that what you're hearing?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Oh, can't wait to play it back.
Sounded like Kristen.
Are they spiders or the sun?
Toby, how old are you?
How old are you? Misty?
I'm excited.
Yeah, SB7 flies somewhere around like 40,000 feet and things.
Too, dude.
Things I researched.
Who lives here? Who lives here?
And this is Off the Cuff, and I'll be your host for this show and for other shows. Hopefully, maybe we can do this once in a while. So on this show, I'll voice my opinion. We'll talk about some ghosts, some mythical creatures, cryptozoology. We'll talk about a little bit about everything. A little bit about everything. That's okay. I mean, there's nothing sacrosanct here. We'll talk about everything.
So whether you're psychic, whether you're downloading information through technical remote viewing, whether you're having a dream about something, it is information. It's energy, basically, information, and it is translated into the information.
Okay, now
time doesn't matter, right? So I think once you get out of like the three dimensions, you start getting to the time dimensions, get into these things. How does that tachyon field relate to time?
Right. There is no time. There's never been any time. Einstein, he was lazy. He was a lazy kid. He was a lazy ass child. Okay. Loreto, Peru, which is in Alto Nani, which is a district of Lima. Okay, there is a small village there, which you pointed out on the map, and that there was buzzed by a white orbic UFO about 3 days ago, and they buzzed that city, and then it landed over into the jungle. Now, let me just back up. Every 10 years or so, this will happen. One time it was in Colombia, another time it was in Brazil, and they actually made a movie about it called The Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was sci-fi, but it was actually based on real events. And this is one of those real events. Now,
There's a legend in these parts about Bigfoot. As he was wandering through the forest, he thought about having a podcast. Then he walked and thought and walked and thought. Then he came across a little bunny and he pondered, I wonder if that bunny would be my co-host. And the rest, it was history.
And welcome to Bigfoot and the Bunny. And I hope you guys appreciate our little tribute to our good friend, Michael Lynch, Dr. Michael Lynch, Dr. Mike, as some of you knew him by. He passed away some weeks ago, about a month ago, a little less.
23rd.
On the 23rd.
April 23rd.
And we were introduced to him by our guest tonight, our good friend, Nathaniel J. Gillis, who I'm going to bring on in just 1 second. And of course, we miss him. He's a great guy. And as much as we are absolutely convinced in life after death, and it's a peaceful transfer of power.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it still hurts. It sucks.
It does.
So
That's a lot.
Yeah. And well, thank you guys for joining us. We see you all out there. Echo Leaf, good to see you,
Echo,
buddy.
we've missed you.
And it's been a while.
It's great to
Anne Marie
see you.
Young.
Hi, beautiful.
Greg Koss, hope you're feeling better.
Yes, Mr.
Get some
Koss.
rest, my friend.
Yes.
Get some rest. Bob Burnell.
Hi, Bob.
Oh, you guys. And you guys know Nathaniel. He's no stranger to this show. Awesome guy. Our good friend. He's like a brother from another mother. And shit.
Yep. Echo saying we have an echo.
Oh, we have an echo. I'm not sure. You got other people hearing an echo out there? And let us know. Let us know. We should be good. Should be good. All the settings are right. We turned all the dials and the knobs.
We went check out a melody. Limp Bizkit, if anybody is. This is what I do all the time. So special. How we sounding now, guys?
Oh, you said he was joking. No echo.
Oh,
no echo.
No. We love you guys.
You got us. You got us. But let's get right to things. I know we're off to a little bit of a late start, which is not unusual. Let's bring on our guest, Mr. Nathaniel J. Gillis. Hey, buddy.
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Hello.
Every time you come on the show, I always start by going, "Hey, buddy."
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. Because you are a buddy.
That's right.
Absolutely. I better be, but that's at this point, guys, right?
Right?
Either that or like a son. Either one. Pick one of the two.
I'm going to move you from that 1099 to a salary, so don't worry.
There we go.
Yeah, slept on our couch, a couple of times.
Oh, yeah. We're going to
Absolutely. Love
Room
every
and
second
board.
of it.
Room and board, that's it.
because we bored you.
Oh.
Where's that button? Where's my button?
I know, right? I don't know which button it is. I'm afraid what I'll play if I touch the consoles over
Exactly.
here.
We
The
can't
mad
touch
controls of Bigfoot and the Bunny Studios.
I'm ready to throw my laptop out the window. Dear laptop.
But I guess we could start off by saying a couple of things about Michael. And, it was you that introduced him to us.
Yes.
Right.
And he was also another regular guest. He was on over 10 times, I believe,
Yeah.
at least
Wow.
shows. And we did some with you both, I just saw in that clip. And it's always a pleasure, and it will be missed because I love that we, can disseminate so much information and stuff and make people just think, and those clips in particular were things that he just, you could talk about anything and he just fucking knew something about it.
Always.
More
Always.
than the average person, So yeah,
It's incredible.
Regards. Our hearts go out to his family and friends.
Absolutely.
There's an origin story there. So years ago, before I ever got on Coast to Coast, before I was even ever in the field, hello, what's up, Mr. Burnell? But I had reached out to hello, Ann. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. But what's going on, Greg? Good to see you, buddy. But anyway, so years ago, I had reached out to one of my favorite parapsychologists, and I had his books. I was memorized all of his case studies, and so I messaged him on Facebook, and I knew where he lived, so it wasn't like a bad time of the day or the night or something. But I started out, hello, Dr. So and so. Just want you to know I'm a huge fan of you and your research. My name is Nathaniel Gillis, and I'm currently studying demonology. And I said, I know you don't know me. And before I could get that out instantly, you're right, I don't know you. And there's no reason for me to know you.
Wow.
And if you were such a fan of my research, you would know I don't believe in demonology. So you're wasting your time reaching out to me.
Holy moly, huh?
That's right. Actually,
Fast forward 5 years later, ding. Hey, man, can I borrow some money? No, you can't. It was awful. And it hurt me deeply because, I was young in the field and I'm just trying to navigate myself and hopefully find a mentor and someone that could actually talk, right, about the research that could really, kind of pour into and be poured into by. And so it wounded me. I'm thinking, is this a representation of the field itself? If he's like that, how many others are there that are just like him? And so I thought, I'm not going to do that ever again. And then one night I was listening to the Great Art Bell on Coast to Coast, and there was a gentleman who was a guest, and his name was Dr. Michael Lynch. And it was an older episode of Coast to Coast. And so I'm thinking, I had to figure out if he was still alive at that point, right? I'm like, man, I don't know. So I finally found him and reached out to him the same way I reached out to the other individual. And contrary to the first one, this individual was warm, welcoming, and just an all-around great person. And so when we first talked, we went on, I think it was Skype or Zoom, and we talked for because you guys know, right? You all are aware.
Love
3 or 4 hours long. And one thing that I so enjoyed about Dr. Lynch was his ability not to judge. Like the previous individual was like, okay, we can't even have a discourse, no dialogue. Forget, and my approach was, I believe, at least from my approach, I'm thinking I'm studying consciousness, which is what parapsychologists are studying as well. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even get a chance to explain that to the first one, but Dr. Michael Lynch was like, absolutely, right? And so we differed on like a lot regarding the phenomenon, but it didn't matter. I could call him and we would laugh it up. And at the end of the phone call, I knew I had a friend. It wasn't just a good researcher. The depth and profundity of his research was only matched by the depth and profundity of the researcher. And that was Dr. Michael Lynch.
Very well put.
Well put, my friend. Well put. And, that's how we feel about you, too. It's like we don't agree on every single thing. You know what I mean? But we love you. And it's like we know you know what you're talking about. And you make us think every time we talk to you. And the wheels go and we go, oh, yeah. And, and hopefully we give a little of that back. And,
absolutely.
It just.
You also have a nice couch. So
I do.
That goes a long way, my friend. No, but I appreciate it. It's a great compliment, and I'm honored.
It's waiting for you
up there. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I need to make my way.
I've got 2 on the to make sure, like I always do. Seriously, I've got 2 up there just in case.
Echo asked I guess you didn't know, and it was a heart attack. Echo.
Yeah.
That took our friend.
Very unexpected.
So, yeah. Now, there's a question in the audience, and it's actually going to lead us right into, I think, what we're going to talk about a little bit as far as the research goes. So I'm going to bring up that question. I got to scroll back before he bails on us because he thanked us there. And he's like, thanks. I'm overlooking your question. So from Woo Riders DG, you wanted to know what your thoughts on the Vatican saying they are going to hold a press conference on all things, phenomenon, aliens, supernatural, etc. So
right. Well, they're trying to realign the parameters of apparitional theory. What do I mean by that? What they're realizing, others in the field are realizing, is that there is an intelligence that is masquerading as angelic, as demonic, and if it can create physiological constructs, or if it can create an apparition of something, then it could kind of change the timeline of history. For instance, like I was telling you, Christopher, before the show, if Nathaniel Gillis showed up in Rhode Island and said, oh, by the way, when we were on that show the other day, this is what I really meant to say. If that was the phenomenon, it would change your perception of the real Nathaniel Gillis. And so what they're realizing is that this intelligence is creating its own timelines, authoring its own mythology, and hijacking some of the church's doctrines. So that's why they're saying we've got to test the spirit somehow. Why? There's something to test.
Sure.
There's something masquerading as angelic. And this gets back into some of the abduction encounters where people are saying, well, I was abducted by an angel, or these are angels. And then when they go to communicate with them, they go directly to a spirit box, which, by the way, it is quantifiably proven that at least some of the entities we're capturing are not in fact human. They appear as human. They know what humans would know, but there's something wrong with the audio, and even some of the stories that we go back in time and kind of clarify, they're also wrong. And so
never human.
Right, absolutely. Or they never even existed, for that matter. So that's what I believe is coming down the road here. The Vatican's realizing, wait a minute, we have experiencers coming forward saying, hey, listen, these beings are angelic. And now they're going to have to clarify, are they or are they not? And they're going to structure parameters. And so what I look for are those who, I'm just going to float this out there, those who have been in contact with the Vatican, who have suggested these beings are angelic. We're going to see where the Vatican puts those experiences.
You know what's weird is we're watching the series Evil, and it just reminded me of that, like the entity they call, like, you know, CIA that does, you know, work for the Vatican and stuff. And we literally saw something last night that I don't know what episode it was, but it was season 3, and they were like weighing consciousness, like when somebody dies, and it was a really good episode. So
I like that show.
Yeah.
And it does bring up the point too. Like there are some sort of measures, of course, that, you know, Catholic exorcism, you know, you can't just call the church and go, hey, I need an exorcism, and they send somebody right over, right? So there's some kind of degree of like filtering through what, you know, what is mental illness and what are these other things.
Right. Different
And
process.
You're saying is that they're taking this to a different level because of the current times. Like, what are some of the things that maybe they're doing different, or how is that working?
There's a list. I mean, basically, we're dealing with doctrine. And anyone with the cursory knowledge of abduction literature, they're going to see the different correlations here, the interconnectivities between what some people are experiencing in calling angelic, calling demonic, you know, even guides, angelic guides, in what the church is saying, hold on a minute, we're going to make a public statement, right? There's something wrong with this methodology. And I think that what they're, I've already read the different statements, but I'm looking forward to the press conference from the Pope, who's going to go into a deeper nuance to it.
Love to hear this, yeah.
Absolutely. But again, they're redefining some parameters in the sense of doctrine. You know, is it teaching their perception, their perspective? Is it teaching Catholic doctrine? Does this build your faith in our doctrine, God or not? But this is exactly where not just the Vatican, but the larger church as a whole have been in the research, right? Because there are experiencers out there that are saying, well, okay, you know, these are gods, or not gods, but God, and that these are emanations of deity, or what are called Yod Merkaba in Jewish mysticism. What they're saying is a lot of that not real. It's not true. These are not what they say they are. And so in order to do that, they have to redefine some parameters and give us not us, but, you know, them, whatever, give them kind of a blueprint to say, okay, does it check all of these boxes?
Sure.
Yeah, more than anything else, I believe this is part of disclosure.
Another step. I mean, it's no secret the Vatican is very interested in ufology, aliens, telescopes, things of this nature.
Well, yeah.
You know, they want to know, and it's curious that why would they want to know? Something that could maybe turn everything up on its ear, right? Like, you know, it's not exactly what is necessarily written, or perhaps it is, and we're reading it wrong.
Correct. And I just thought of this, by the way, that there are researchers like Diana Walsh-Pasuko who've come forward, having been at the Vatican, right? Given the key to the archives. Here, you know, go do some research. We're going to go away, do your thing. And she came across angelic encounters where at first all of us thought, okay, that was an angel, right? Wings, right? A dove and whatever. And, but they were hiding the fact that some of these beings were not angels at all. They were being poked and prodded by metallic objects or wands. Very similar to my research when I discovered the behavioral pattern in which your literature, the phenomenon manifesting, right? You know, connecting the consciousness of the individual and leaning into archetypes and creating a stage managed performance. And then when they come to, they realize, okay, that's not a demon. They were also being poked and prodded by metallic objects. So if they have a lot to answer for, and I think this is going to give us some questions that these answers belong to.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. I mean,
Yeah,
they
that's
have
gonna be
said
interesting.
that's why they have the telescope. They have said the Pope said that, oh, if we do find life,
Mhm.
it's God's life. Like if we do find aliens,
Right.
it's God that made the aliens. So they did, I think it was what, back in 2017, they said that,
Could've been.
18, something like that.
Yeah,
But
perhaps.
yeah, they did. And
You know, the push
I can't
of
wait to hear what they
science,
say about
you know,
this.
does kind of push spiritualism, you know, on
Right.
all fronts as well. So that they kind of do work hand in hand to create
Mhm.
the knowledge that we actually, things we consider that we know, you know. So there's
Mhm.
always a cutting edge there, and you know, that you bring us a lot of that information, which we appreciate.
Yes,
I
very
know,
much.
like some years ago, and I think most people are familiar with those statistics about the Vatican hiring many more exorcists, you know,
Correct.
last decades, you know, than previously,
Mhm.
that they did. And obviously there was a need or a call for it. I don't think they were necessarily selling themselves like a neon sign by doing that. You know, it just kind of came out, and all right, the figure came out. What,
It was almost like a draft.
you know?
It wasn't everybody volunteering. They're like, "You get over here. You're the next one."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
you're right.
Right. Get your suitcase, get your crucifix. Let's go.
But I think this goes hand in hand with some of the briefings that a lot of our governmental officials are being given right now. Tim Burchett and others,
Oh yeah.
and regardless, and take
He's
this for what it's worth, but regardless of any political leanings, um, when Tucker Carlson was on Joe Rogan asked him, like, you know, what do you know? And Joe Rogan said, or I'm sorry, and Tucker was like, look, I can tell you some things, right? He said other things I wouldn't tell my wife. And basically, that the pilots were supernatural. You take that with another aspect of it, which is Nick Pope coming forward recently, not about 2 or 3 months ago, and he was with Whitley Strieber. I know again, people they poo poo Nick Pope. That's fine, but I ran it up through one of my mentors. I said, okay, hey, is this true? It is. And Nick Pope said that the NHIs, the bodies that we are in possession of, have interdimensional characteristics. What are we talking about?
right.
Are these pilots themselves a part of the phenomenon? Are they constructs of this intelligence? Is this what we have been witnessing in hauntology, where the interdimensionality of the entity is perceived? We see it. It materializes to the touch and then walks through a wall. Is this why Bud Hopkins said that, well, we know they're physical some of the time?
Hmm.
And it's interesting, again, all of those thoughts, theories, hypotheses tied together leads us back to the Vatican saying we need to restructure our guidelines. Not, watch this, not that is it an apparition? Notice that.
Hmm.
No. Is it a part of the angelic ministry? Is it from a church? Is it an emissary, an emanation from deity, their deity specifically? That says a lot to me, at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Where do you think to get the idea to have it as a pilot? You know, it's such a human thing to pilot a boat,
Right.
pilot an aircraft, pilot a UFO.
Mhm.
You know what we call a UFO.
Sure.
It's like they take it from, it's kind of like those spirit box clips at the front of the show is playing some clips, and it's got, hey Kristen, you know, and all that stuff.
I like when they correct us.
Yeah, and they take that knowledge right from us, though, right? Like it seems like it, or perhaps it's part of like the Akashic records, and it's just in this database that,
Yeah.
man, if you just touch it, you just know it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think it actually comes from us? Do you think all the stuff is just like floating around the
Some of it, but and this gets back to the argument that I've heard, and it's a great question, but the theory is not it's not a highly developed theory, right? I've been on shows before where they're like, that was okay, there was a negative encounter with the phenomenon. Oh, that was a manifestation. How can you prove that?
True.
Right? No, that's another way to shirk responsibility. Well, okay, I don't really have the answer for that. It was you. And I was on one show and I said, that's kind of like, when we're kids and you see somebody in school that's bigger than someone else and they start taking their hand and stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting
Yeah,
yourself.
stop hitting yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. It's lazy, in my opinion. Sorry, guys, you're seeing, but I'm being just shoot from the hip here, because what that means is, well, I don't really have a reason for that. It's you. And what I mean by that is there have been case studies where the phenomenon does more than pluck memories out of the consciousness of the experiencer,
Mhm.
right? I can only how can I manifest something I'm not aware of?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How can you step into a memory I don't have? Right?
Yeah.
So case study after case study after case study where the phenomenon takes knowledge that it has. Someone died. Okay, you're in an abduction encounter. Okay, someone died and you meet them. You didn't know they died till the actual encounter. Then you go back home and you look them up. Oh my God, yeah, they did die. So there, like I said, there are cases where, it kind of pulls information from the ether, not just from the consciousness of the experiencers themselves.
Right.
Yeah, no, that actually speaks to like psychic phenomena and stuff. And I know we've had these experiences, and even though we don't label ourselves as psychics or mediums or anything, not that there's anything wrong with that. Just saying you don't use those monikers, but we've certainly had those experiences, right? And we've talked about them on the show before. They always feel very outside, or it's something you wouldn't think of. So, like, how do you explain those sort of things? What you're kind of detailing right now kind of does kind of maybe explain or build a framework around those kind of things, where this really outside idea, something just you didn't know or wouldn't have thought of, just was not in your your regimen, just pops in your head, and you're sitting there just going, oh wow, I would have never
Where'd
thought
that come from? Yeah.
that's almost like a litmus test for us in those kind of things, because or at least you feel it's not your subconscious, like there's something external kind of put in this at you, and that kind of fits in kind of what you're saying right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot here to unpack, but it's not just us projecting, and this is what bugs me about certain people in the field that want to push that narrative where, well, the reason they did A, B, and C to you is because you agreed to it in a prior life or before you were incarnated. First of all, you don't even know my phone number. How do you know what I agreed to before I was born?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Honestly, it's someone, and to me, it's like someone peeing on my leg and telling me it's raining.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, right? You don't even, like, what do you mean? You know that? How do you know that? Oh, like, in a lot of this, and this is just my perspective, but a lot of this seems to be us remembering events that we were not supposed to remember. The phenomenon wanted us to just forget it. Then once we do remember, now it has to, oh my God, I got to create a story as to why we did that to you. This is, there's one experiencer that Dr. Kohler Turner worked with where he was a psychic medium, and the entire time he's thinking, okay, I'm talking to my guides, they're guiding my life, and just all that. And then the abductions begin, and all of a sudden the guides are eerily silent. Why? Because it's almost as if there are certain programs that are ran or at least masks, intelligences that are designed. And this is what I lectured about at the Awakening in the UK, the proto-intelligence that diversifies its identity in our eyes. And then once we converse with this, it shares the information directly to the intelligence behind that incarnation. We didn't know that. And then suddenly, when the real proto-intelligence begins to court the human condition, guess what? Those guides are silent. Why? Because they're tied back into something.
Well, there you go. All right. I love that. Human condition. I think I used it in the title of the show. And it's funny you would mention those words because you just reminded me, like, I just knew there was some reason why I should put this in here. And that is kind of the crux of things, right? When you say, all right, look, when people use this as an excuse, they're talking about their past lives as if somebody knocked on their door and sold them a set of encyclopedias of their past lives. And they can just flip through the book and go, oh, yeah, here it is on page, 3,868. I did this in a past life. That's why I'm cursed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, right? It's a human condition to try to make sense of these things. It's like paranoia when you're looking at the clouds and your mind wants to make a face, which is not to say, there isn't a face. Sometimes there is, but your brain, the human condition makes you want to make sense of everything, of your perceptions, because we're so limited. We only got, scientifically the 5 senses, and you're trying to survive. And this goes back to a time where we were hunter-gatherers. When maybe before that, I guess we always kind of been that, but maybe before we were the hominids that we are today. We're always trying to make sense of our surroundings because it really is a survival mechanism. So again, I think you're kind of speaking to that a little bit. And
absolutely.
And ripe it is for abuse.
Oh yeah. And there's also evidence that we talked a little bit about this for the show, that in these incubi cases that are bleeding not just into demonology but in UFO abduction phenomenon, the self-replication of species, which is what I'm bringing to the table. And necronetics is the next stage of my research. But there's a lot more going on than just the courting of the human condition. It's like, okay, the cognitive interface is employed by the phenomenon. I have case studies where you can literally catch it possessing a learning matrix. It's not just a face. It's not just my dear Aunt Edna. It's not just a guide. There's a learning matrix employed. It's the intelligence stretching its arm into our reality. And the rules and the knowledge that the proto-intelligence has is built into that cognitive interface that we're witnessing in real time. And we didn't realize it. That just as this proto-intelligence is evolving according to our awareness of it, I've had case studies where that's present and you see it in real time, where the experiencer used to believe this was a cartoon character abducting her. And now it's not. And it took a while to get to that point, because when it manifested the second time, it manifested as the cartoon character. That's almost like a program, my friends. And at the point where it realized that, oh my God, I have not updated the cognitive interface. I have not evolved according to her awareness. Then it had to, her perception. Now it has to do. What am I doing? Oh my God, I'm updating. Now, this would imply that not all of the data can be trusted.
Right.
That again, if it can create apparitions, then perhaps it has used even all of hauntology, some of it, to author its own mythology, to lead us to conclusions, right? That are not true. Creating and altering timelines, stories, right? Dear Aunt Edna died, and she comes to me and says, okay, I have a message for you. What is it? Bam, 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 bam. This is what the Vatican is doing. Okay, test it. Right? And in that, the phenomenon manifesting as Dear Aunt Edna, it's tying history back to the present. And now it's changing their perception of that, all of it. What am I saying here? And I want to break it down because I don't want to be verbose and just whatever, complicated. That if this phenomenon can masquerade as ghosts, demons, right? If it can, in leaning in and out of archetypes, why can't it create its own character in the game? Why can't it create a body, a beingness, an entity?
Yeah.
A species, right, that is no longer verifiable. where it no longer has to provide answers. There is no historical record, my friends.
Right.
There,
Or rely on the written word or what's
there we
considered
go.
common knowledge of the
There
days.
we go.
I mean, we've talked about, like, say, ritual magic
That
and the
scares me to
grimoires
death.
a lot, and Aleister Crowley and people like that. And, you're talking about a medieval period, right? You're talking about a modern man reading the grimoires of the Middle Ages and bringing about those sort of things. And Catholicism brings up the demons, but like what happened before that, right? So before that was defined as demons, you had shamans and you had these other people that were just in touch with this other reality that was going on around us, but we didn't have those labels of like demon and that kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
We didn't.
So
Right. And so
the labels get created, the phenomena follow suit.
there we go. And what is so fascinating to me, and I can, like I said before, I can only share a little bit of this. I've actually literally been instructed by people not to share it because this weird stuff. So getting back to this idea of it creating archetypes for us, providing just enough evidence for us to believe this character exists, and then coming back as that character to guide us. We trust it. Why? I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but I need everybody to understand this too, because there are people that follow me in every show I do. This was an impromptu show. I'm doing this because my friends, Kristen, for our good friend, Dr. Lynch, died. But I am taking a month off because I'm structuring this research in a way that I can articulate it. But what I am suggesting is that this phenomenon is not just leaning in and out of archetypes. It is authoring them in the consciousness of our species, where if it manifests as Mother Mary wants, oh my God, it's miraculous. Okay, yeah, there's phenomena. The next time it manifests could absolutely be the deception it wanted to deceive us with.
Sure. Yeah.
And people can say, well, yeah, why is it always deception? It's not always deception. But again, I think, this is why the Vatican's coming forward saying, listen, we've got a problem here. We have to establish some parameters. Not everything that calls itself Mother Mary is a Marian apparition. What that speaks to is they know there is an intelligence here. What I'm saying here, and I'll shut up, is that we're now realizing, both by virtue of studying mythologies, demonology, all of that, not just that, but through the scientific method, a conglomerate of researchers are realizing, okay, there's something that wants to become incarnate. It wants to appear as real as possible, but it does not fit in our reality. And if it can do that, ladies and gentlemen, it can quite literally alter its own being, its own timeline, and its own background. And what I fear as a researcher is that when it manifested as Dear Aunt Edna, we were starting to see through that masquerade. When it manifested as guides, we started to realize, wait a minute, why were you guiding me until you abducted me? And then when I go back to my guides, they're nowhere to be found. It started to realize, oh my God, as they were courting our human condition, we were also evolving with the phenomenon. And so it thought, you know what? Okay, I'm going to author an entity. I'm going to give it an unknown location. Where's it at? Out there. And that's unverifiable.
Right. Like so much of these things are. But then again, if you go back, you look at the facts. Okay, so people, they're going to be, they push back when you say, all right, my spirit guide is something evil, because they get good information from their spirit guide, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And then I'm no way putting down those kind of things or that kind of,
I'm giving some case studies.
But look back on history too. And then you see these instances where it wasn't, right? Like Heaven's Gate, and you got like some suicide cult, Jim Jones, these sort of things. Well, what were those guys doing, right? And why are they different? I don't know, but some definitely are. They believed it. They were told this is what you need to do.
What we're witnessing, though, in real time is the concept that the spirit guide ideology just erupted 25 years ago. No, that term we inherited from our ancestors. And so if we inherited that term from our ancestors, we cannot divorce that from their theologies and their beliefs about the spirit, right? How can we, okay, sure, we'll use their terms. We will inherit their belief systems, but nothing else matters. No, when you get into the text of the Rephaim in northern Syria, that's where the authorship, I guess, of the spirit God ideology began. That was descended ancestors who were divinized, who evolved into a new. They were more than human, not less. That's where the demonology came from later on. But so what they thought was, okay, if I build altars for them, if I provide a sacred space for them, they will give me insights into the afterlife, or they will give me wealth, they'll give me healing, they'll tell me to go to Canaan, and all that. That's where all this began. And yet tethered to that ideology was the fear. These beings, whatever we want to call them, told them, if you don't give me A, B, and C, we're going to haunt you.
Okay.
What I fear is that when people enter the field of the paranormal, Barnes and Noble, they have $3 and think, okay, this is what all this is tied to. It's not at all.
Mm-mm.
So
No.
I think, again, this goes back into the phenomenon wanting us to believe this is modern. It's not.
No,
It's a modern incarnation responding to ancient incantations. And it's that ancient part that we also have to include into our worldview.
Right.
I'm not saying religious.
And again,
I just said ancient.
It's not always bad.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that the really primitive cultures use this to find more food, to find sustenance, to know when the opposing tribe was going to sneak up on them, and which plays more into the medieval thing of kings wanting to know what the next country's doing and when they're going to invade and can give us power to fight these battles and that sort of thing. And then you get more of a subjective kind of thing, like we're better than them.
Then you got the fates. You got
Fates, absolutely. The Norns.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily bad, right? It's not necessarily bad, but there's all these instances where things do go south, right? Like I mentioned the death cults and that sort of thing.
Correct.
Like how do you filter through what is helping me, what's not helping me? And is it from God, gods, goddesses, that sort of thing, or is it from something that is malevolent and wants to consume you and eat your soul, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, well, I think that's where the Vatican's coming from. What I am saying is this: that there are a lot of things here. There are a lot of possibilities. This phenomenon could actually be layering the whole guide aspect, right? Where there are authentic angels or there are authentic guides that are there to say, hey, look, that guy's breath stinks. Maybe don't go on a date with him, right? You know what I mean? Or, and in addition, and I have cases like this too, where the phenomenon would say, okay, yeah, I'm them, right? And I think all of this gets down to the root system of how do we vet them?
Yeah.
We know, and this is by the case studies, the sheer weight of their presence, that whatever this is can masquerade as guides, gods, ghosts, angels, demons.
Sure. We have to step into roles. We're
trying to figure out where does the authentic phenomenon begin in the mass end. That is the paradigm we're operating in.
Yeah, for sure. You really need to be careful.
We know.
Tread lightly in some of these things, and what you think is a positive influence, I should say, in your life. May not be if it starts to tell you things that are maybe going against the grain. Maybe question that a little bit. Maybe outright ask that question.
And this shouldn't be a big deal.
I suppose
it should not be a big deal.
You know,
I'm
a
sorry?
gradual. I suppose it's gradual, right? The influence, say something more nefarious than a helpful guide. Maybe, you know, here's
Let me
some peanuts. You know what I mean? Here's some seeds. Follow the breadcrumbs. Follow me into the
right.
forest.
Let me give you a case study that would kind of show everyone where we're at in this, how far this can go. So, a good friend of mine who's in the field, when I started getting into necronetics, Ikigai literature, all that, you know, the manifesting in the images of a lover, whatever, uh, he called me. He said, you know, he goes, I've been going back through some of my encounters. I said, all right. He goes, and there was one experience I had that seemingly made sense. And guys, this is what I was talking to you guys about in the green room. The paranormal doesn't terrify me. What terrifies me is the presence of the paranormal appearing. It's just something that belongs, right? That intelligence. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say you're right. It is. That's why there's a lot of us. That's why a lot of researchers out there. Well, you know,
We're trying to make sense. Again, you know, we're so
scientific.
limited in our sensory inputs that, you know, trying to make sense of something that doesn't follow the same physics that we follow.
Right.
It can be very difficult.
As the Vatican, they have scientists. They're trying to measure things. Exactly.
Absolutely. And when you're in the presence of something that does defy those physics, it's frightening out of the gate, right? I mean, you're just like, well, that shouldn't have happened. And things
shouldn't be there. Yeah.
Like, well, okay.
Brain fried.
But it just happened. Yeah. You know.
The reason we're even having this discussion is because there are individuals who knows who the first experiencer was, who noticed that something was out of place. Something didn't feel right. Or what was that in the sky? Or was that really who I thought it was? Right. So this individual, so we're on the phone. I said, okay, what's going on? He goes, you know, I've been thinking about this experience. It's troubling me now. He goes, because I'm starting to realize what you're saying. He said that he's currently married now with kids, but he's like about 10 years ago. He said I was in a serious relationship with a woman. And he said we were together for years and years. He said we split up. He said I moved across town, got a new job, just boom, we're done. And he's like, months went by, right? He goes, I didn't have a number. He said, I didn't even talk to the same friends. You know, I kind of had a new life. And he said, months and months went by. And he said, next thing he knows, he gets off work, he goes home, turns on the TV, opens up a beer, starts drinking a beer. He gets a phone call. Hey, is this so-and-so? Yeah, who's this? Oh, well, I'm just going to say it. This is Amy. Okay, Amy. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what it was. And she goes, okay, I'm outside. Of what? Your apartment. He opens the door. She comes in. They have an encounter. He said in the middle of the night, I wake up, she's gone. He's like, I didn't know what to make of it. Didn't think anything of it. I woke up the next day, got ready for work, went on with my life. He said, but he said, I started thinking, you know, I haven't talked to her. This is the ex. I haven't talked to her in months. You know, I've changed my life. I even changed my number. I live in a different apartment complex. So he calls her. Hey, I just want to know, like, what was last night about? Who is this? It's so-and-so. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? I told you, don't ever call me again. That was not me. I was not there. I don't know where you live. I don't like leave me alone. He hung up the phone. He goes, wait a minute. The government knows this. When Nick Redfern and some of the other researchers postulate that some of the men in black that are knocking on doors are not from the government. They are physiological constructs from this intelligence where you can converse with it. You can talk to it. You can drive by and look at it through the window of your car. And it's not real. It doesn't belong in our reality. So when people are hypothesizing, well, if they're invading us, why don't they just, land on the White House lawn? And why? Oh my God, they're going to do this, right? The invasion of the body snatchers. No.
Right.
This intelligence has had the ability to quite hack reality, create a space for its own existence. And we have called that the paranormal. In order to do that, the implications for a phenomenon to do that, we do not have the vocabulary to articulate, because it's not just paranormal. Oh, well, yeah, okay, it's the black cat in the Matrix. Okay, fine. What we're not realizing is that there have been things we've laid eyes on, things that we thought were a part of our world, that we built entire religions on, mind you.
Yes.
That have been emanations of this intelligence. That's why, I'm just going to throw this out there. Hi, Amy. What were you doing last night? I wasn't even in town. So
what
this,
was it? Who was it? What was it? Exactly.
Right.
What was that experience? Hey, you mentioned, and you've talked a lot about incubi, succubi phenomena. You just throwing it out there. If you're having some kind of spiritual sex, or you're having sex with something that doesn't have a body,
alleged,
might be
there's something wrong here.
There might be something
Right.
that may be not in the body.
In some of the case studies within witch era literature, and this is when I started to see through the horizon and realize, okay, like literally seeing the abyss, and I started questioning things. And I got to take a break. There's things that should make sense that they don't. But there are experiencers that the phenomenon had created a stage-managed theatrical performance. What do you mean? Look over here.
Exactly.
Right? And Dr. Carla Turner hypothesized, yes, in doing that, they're manipulating our consciousness. Okay, I can deal with that. But my point is that when some of these witches, some of these, warlocks, whatever you want to call them, whatever, make up another term, okay. But what they realized, yes, what had happened was the phenomenon had literally designed physical metallic objects to not just meet the needs of the body, but to quite literally, they were enough real enough to be perceived by the experiencer as a man's member, even I'm telling you, to the detail of circumcision. In when the phenomenon, again, had courted the human condition, and then afterwards, they're not where they thought they were. And again, this bleeds into this concept of this, again, the insecurity that I've always had, that I'm really having now. It's like an existential crisis, because it's not the paranormal that terrifies me. It's the things that appear normal offered by that intelligence.
Right.
The things that I've seen that I thought were a part of this reality. And then at any moment, this phenomenon can say, and so this is why I told you guys in the green room, for whatever reason, it's decided to create its own character in the game. And now it's offering a new mythology. 5,000 years from now, someone's going to go, oh, well, remember when, oh my God, she believed in aliens. But why? We don't realize that in early demonology, they were taught to believe that by the phenomenon. This is incredible. It wasn't, okay, well, I think they're horns and hooves. Nonsense. When they were abducting witches and sorcerers, they never decide, hey, listen, I'm not really a demon. Absolutely not. They leaned into it with pure intentions, and said, okay, I'm going to meet you at the point of your belief. What does that mean for us as a species? It's not that they know what we believe in. They know what we would consider worthy of believing in. Does it have touch? Touch it? Absolutely. What am I saying? Nathaniel, what are you saying? It blinded us with our own vision.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a subjective perception, a vision. And what gets me is like when we talk about things like some of that, again, I'm going to go back to incubi, succubi phenomena and things like molters and things that we talked about on the show before, where a third party comes in and there's evidence. So it wasn't just that person's conception of, okay, I was raped by aliens, right? They go into abduction phenomena, but there's something left. You know, there's somebody collecting the fluids, or there's a scarification on the body that, you know, is coming from under the skin out. Yeah, it's going off. So that is the kind of thing where like another person comes in. Is their perception being manipulated while they're scraping that demonic semen off the head, or no, it's still there, you know? Like, what do you say about that? You know, that seems pretty real.
Yeah.
The phenomenon is interreligious cross-cultural. And what I am not suggesting is we need to run for the hills, drink ourselves to death, freak out. What I'm suggesting here is that where does hauntology and ufology begin and end? We have case studies of abduction accounts that are preceded by malevolent hauntings, shadow figures. I thought that's just hauntology. No. In its diversifying of its identity, again, it created a new mythology. You guys got to catch this. A new mythology of research to where, well, that's a haunting. And that's an abduction. Right? So again, this goes back to the ability of this phenomenon to court the human condition. Not just to know what we believe, but to know what we would consider worthy of believing in. Enough to create entire fields to obfuscate the truth, to confound us. Well, that's a ghost or a shadow figure. Okay, because it just abducted me into an alien craft. But that's an alien, not a shadow figure. And so in its diversification of its intelligence, different conferences, different t-shirts, different fields of research. And then if you were to take each of these incarnations of this phenomenon and layer them, you're going to see that these are various incarnations.
Well,
yeah. And you know, I can't help but think about Plato's cave, you know, and you hear shadow figure and stuff, and that there could be a better or bigger knowledge as well, just around the corner, and that we can also talk ourselves into just being in that cave, and the only thing we see are those shadow figures, right? And we go, that's all that there is. And if you tell me there's a better world outside of this cave, I'm not going to believe you. I think you're evil or something's corrupted in your mind. You're lying to me, you know?
Right. The pieces are meshing together. And I'm not saying it's 100% malevolent, but what I will say is that if it's pinning, and again, if it could create apparitions, there's hauntology.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
What,
as Steve Mara likes to say, right? Phenomenology. It is a phenomenology.
It is. Right.
Under the umbrella.
This gets back. Right. And so like when I was doing research like years and years ago, it's like, okay, so at what point, because I started seeing behavioral patterns that were so demonstrative, they were italicized in every case study. It's okay, why is this? They're the same methodologies. You know, let me say this, guys, and this has to be said. This is not an idea. When you get into witch era literature, there's what's called scatology, which was what the rituals mandated in order to be effective in that dimension. Take a guess at what the phenomenon's harvesting from experiencers. Take a guess.
Souls?
It's
Consciousness?
no, I'm talking about excretions, biological
Go
secretions.
with that. Oh, yeah.
All right. Now let's go to early demonologists. They were triangulating. They had grimoires written. Okay, let's look at, okay, what does this ritual need? Okay, why are lights hovering over recently deceased men? Why are they being witnessed over graveyards? And so there was a partnership between what the ritual needed to influence its efficacy in what was being taken from men and women. This is, so my point here, and I'll shut up, and I know I'm being controversial, but what I'm suggesting here is that there are certain things that matter to this phenomenon more than others, in that in a very, very profound way, it has masqueraded as various beings, various origins, and when it realized at the time of its choosing, when it realized some of these are failing, there are people that are seeing through these masks. I'm tired of having to create fake stories, right? I know I'm not Dear Aunt Edna. I'm tired of manifesting with my case study to a little girl and not having evolved with her experience in life. I don't want to be a cartoon character to every child because they're going to verify it. They're going to validate it. What can I do? I'll offer my own origin. Where's it at? Name it. I'm going to tell you my name. What are you? Reptilian? Draco? What is it?
Draco, huh?
Right.
Are you
What
going
I'm
with
sa-
Dracula,
well,
or what are you saying with the Draco?
what I'm saying is, when Ted Rice is being abducted, and he's looking around thinking, okay, this doesn't fit at all, and an entity leaves, enters back into the room as his deceased grandfather. Time out. Because there was a time limit between when he entered the room, he's relying on belief.
Yeah, that's
So,
basically what we do, though.
right, of course, but there's a reason for that. And it knew what we were willing to believe in. And so what I'm saying, and again, and I'm rambling, and I apologize.
No, please
it's a very
do.
good point.
And it is
This
controversial, and that's why you are here. You're here
That's
to
fine. Well,
talk
yeah, I
about
mean,
it.
these case studies are present, and it's not just parapsychologists realizing this. The Vatican knows this as well. But if this is a singular intelligence, what do I say that? Because there have been case studies when it's manifested through different stages of incarnations. I'm a shadow figure. Okay, until you abduct me, and then what am I?
Well, what do you think about
There's something wrong here.
shadow figures in general, and when they don't abduct people?
Again,
What's that?
right. So let me go back to this. In one of Dr. Barry Taft's cases, which I only have about 10 more minutes, but
Yeah,
okay.
no,
it was a poltergeist.
No worries.
But it was assaulting the female. And so when the sons were present, they're watching this, their perception from the outside is a ball of light that descended down upon her. And so her experience interfacing with this intelligence was different than their experience when they're watching it occur. That's ontology. Dr. Carla Turner had a case study of abduction where the same phenomenon took place, but it's aliens. Definitely not shadow figures, definitely not, whatever, ghosts or poltergeists. A ball of light descended down upon a woman. And it cased her in this almost a portal. And everyone on the outside are yelling at her. And she said, I could not experience, I could not hear anything from the outside.
Like a vacuum.
Right. And so here she is, almost like calcified in a new reality. And in the middle of this cocoon, then the phenomenon started interfacing with her. So, two vastly different cases, two fields of research. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to orbs. Let's go to orbs. Right now, the leading experience in the world, works at the Vatican, is saying that beings, alien beings, whatever, angels, whatever you want to call them, are stepping out of balls of light. Again, the phenomenon wants us to believe this is new. This is only my experience. No one else has ever experienced that. Why?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not just covering its bases, it's covering its faces. If we took that case study and took it directly back to the skull experiment, where were these beings coming from?
Right.
Balls of light. Why is it that in early demonological literature, especially within Judaism, they were conversing with a possessing entity, talking to the demoniac? What do you look like in your purest form? He said, I look like a white egg. What?
Interesting.
Right. Yeah. So this again, this leads me to step back and say, if I can create a new alias, falsify its origin story, do whatever I've always been doing, abducting, right? And I create a new archetype, and I could point to the area of existence that these people are the most ignorant of. I don't have to deal with the timeline. I don't have to say I'm Dear and Edna, because they can go to City Hall and figure that out. But now watch what happens. Now the only way they can validate anything I say or anything I want them to believe is phenomenon. Watch this. Vatican was here. They saw the manifestation. Therefore, my message to them is true, accurate, right, best intentions. What has that done? It has alleviated our ability to say, okay, how can I prove that? Here, look at Elon Musk.
Oh God.
Guys,
Sorry.
Tim Taylor, the leading scientist right now, is a part of the Invisible College. Tim Taylor works for SpaceX. Elon Musk told Joe Rogan, I think it was Joe Rogan, look, if there are aliens, I would know. I'm working with, right? So again, there's no origin story.
Right.
There's no ability to vet.
Sense to our perceptions because it's on such a different level than the stuff we can possibly know. I think I've mentioned this before, probably talking to you on the show about say magicians and people that are talking to angels, and the angels telling them, look, call me Michael, because if I told you my real name as I understand it, it's in so many different frequencies simultaneously happening.
Yes.
You can't perceive it. And I think that's an interesting point, because you don't think about stuff like that. We take our nature of communications, showing other people things, whatever, for very much for granted, as if that's the only measure that can be, right? Things we can hear and perceive, and we talk in one singular voice. Why not have a choir of voices that come out of us saying different things? Why can't another being have that? Of course, like, just to give you an idea, like how far our perceptions could be stretched from what the human experience to something else that's totally different, that what they take for granted is just beyond our comprehension. But it still begs the question, what do they want with this? Why would they be hybrid babies? Why would they want to mess with us and torture us and make our lives miserable?
Is it a zoo theory?
Is there any kind of indication from the Vatican or otherwise in the research as to what they actually want?
Yeah, you need experiments for that. Do they, I don't know.
Yeah, so
I'll throw that out there.
Yeah.
I'm stuck on two things right now, real quick.
Let him answer that, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
When you look at when in history this phenomenon took the largest gaps of evolution, it's been when people started asking questions that we're asking.
Sure.
It's been when, wait a minute, Montague Summers, why is it that these grimoires are demanding the same scatology, the same secretions? that this intelligence is harvesting from experiencers. And then 1950s show up. Jack Parson is performing ritual magic. And then UFOs, flying saucers, and mind you, like, right? What is this? And so then we see now, and I'll be quiet after this because I got to go after this, but watch this. It is not an accident that when Kenneth Arnold, by the way, he knew Jack Parsons. When Kenneth Arnold first saw these crafts, he likened them to something to do with the afterlife. Number one. Number two, he likened them, okay, they're skipping like flying saucers, but there was a flaw in the communication between what he meant and what was released into the consciousness of the population. That was when it evolved the most, and a massive change. And now it authors a new incarnation. And now everyone says, when it manifested to me as wasn't that a flying saucer? Yeah, so am I saying it's all bad? No. What I am saying, though, is that the Vatican's realizing that the phenomenon is taking credit for angelic visitations, that they're not angels. It's taking credit for apparitional appearances. They're not real apparitions. And there has to be a way of vetting it. But if I, instead of creating a new alias, changing my name, changing my appearance, what if I literally authored an entirely new being?
There you go. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
What if I watch this? Now, again, getting back to the red right and the ritual of the ultimate black mass, which is what I believe the incubus is, by the way, where this is tied back to sorcery, where the practitioner realizes, okay, my body's dying. What does it do? And this is the black mass. It goes and it feeds the female. Well, here you go. Ingest this. Okay. It does two things. It puts her to sleep and heightens her sexuality. Then he inseminates her. Where have we heard that from? And then it commandeers the body of that fetus and then takes it for himself. Where did we hear that from?
Where?
The book,
Why?
incubi, all of the above.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's the balloons.
What's
Celebration.
happening here?
Was that your?
What I'm saying is
We need one of those.
it's using again all of that little phenomenon of Kadiba, all that. It's to create a social skin. It's to step into an already present character.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Yes. Boy, do I have
I get you.
questions.
I get you. I know we got a lot of questions for you, but I also know you got to go. We know
Yeah,
this.
Greg has one as well. In the comment.
We're going to have to wrap it up, though. That's what you got to do.
And again, I'm constantly evolving with my research. And I'm not saying I have it all together. I'm not saying 100% correct at all.
Years later. Yeah, absolutely. And nobody does. And that's why we do this, because we want to know the answers. We want to leave Plato's cave. We want to get out there, see what the world holds for us, the universe, and all of that. What else? Go ahead.
I want to say something real quick, and then I got to go. But I want everybody to put yourselves in this situation. Right. The case study I had a long time ago, the remote viewer, he meets his guides. Okay, whatever. They were either his guides or they appeared as his guides. Whatever. Okay. The amulets they carved into him that emerged from underneath the skin of the surface, that was a game changer. Not just because of what they represented. They were cross-cultural and religious. Forget demonology. And forget, by the way, I've sent some of the photographic evidence to other practitioners. What is that? What I'm saying is that demonology is failing, in that our concept of the alien, the demonic, all of it, I think it was put on by something that was just like a Dr. Carl Turner case where one of us remembers something that wasn't real. It's a construct. It doesn't even exist. So what exists is the evidence. And what that case study suggests is that we are thinking of practitioners, right? Oh, we're connecting with whatever demons, whatever. We never thought of them connecting with another dimension to influence us. Never entered our mind. The amulets were an Egyptian hieroglyph, the Star of David, and a cross. We don't have a concept for that because we have the Vatican, we have Judaism, right? We have Egyptology. Whatever rules and amulets and laws they're playing by in that dimension, they manifested through the skin of this experiencer to the surface.
Yeah.
And what we're learning is that, okay, yeah, so even like, okay, not the good magic. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about some of the darker stuff. We were led to believe that we were influencing them into our world. We were not prepared for the practitioners they're a part of, the beings they were worshiping and trying to incarnate into this dimension. Because every symbol is tied to an entity.
That brings me back to the egg. I was going to ask a question about
Right.
that. Right.
And so what I'm saying here, again, and I got to shut up because I ramble a lot and I have ADHD and whatever.
No, it's fine. We need you to.
But this opens another bubble of dimensionality. And it's what I'm leaning towards is some of the incantations we received are directly from them. They were not originally in the consciousness of the practitioner. These beings authored the thought, go out and write out this incantation. And then when we okay, we're gonna do that. Then now they step forward. I'll shut up, but watch. I'm on one of the diet guys. I'm pumped up. You guys got me triggered. What this implies is that they're not two dimensions. They're not just beings that we'll call them demons. No, there's something that exists that's above whatever these beings are. And when they were carving amulets into this experiencer, they were doing that in order to pull that dimension into ours.
Mm.
Yeah.
We see that with Jack Parsons.
Okay.
And I'll shut up. Right.
No, don't. It's okay. But I have a
That's all
question
good.
about Jack. You got to think about Jack Parsons. I don't know if a lot of people know about him, but we've done research. And he was like, what is it? The father of rocketry? Is that what it's? Yeah. So that's more like a manifestation in the ether. Thank you. In the ether. And do you think being the person that he was before he went into like Crowley's stuff, do you think that maybe because the person that he was, the human, that his brain manifested into the ether and then he went on to go, do high magic, whatever?
Possible. There is evidence to suggest that some of these experiences are initiatory practices. Listen, when they hand you a symbol and say, what do you see and what can you do with this? Oh, that's UFO abduction. No.
When who hands you a symbol?
Aliens. This has happened over and over and over again. Absolutely. Here's a symbol. What can you do with it? Here's technology. Here's technology. With Chris Bledsoe, can you work it? What do you mean? Can I work it? Well, it's consciousness based. Look at the symbols. Okay. What we're looking at here are behavioral patterns and pattern confirming evidence where it's in cross-cultural and religious. Doesn't matter which incarnation, right? It's always present. It's always present. But all right, I got to get out of here, guys. I appreciate you guys letting me vent. I'm still working on these theories.
Thank you.
But,
thank you for spending that time with us.
You.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Again, rest in peace, our friend, Dr. Michael Lynch.
Absolutely.
And hey, we love you, man. Thank you for joining us and having this conversation. As you know, you'll be back.
I will, if you guys will have me back. I know it was.
We'll have you in the studio.
I didn't mean to controversial. We have to test them, and we're
it's
learning.
getting warmer up here in Rhode Island. So,
yeah, you need to get your butt back here. Next time we'll have you in the studio, get you on our couch again.
Absolutely.
I'm excited, guys. God bless you guys. Love y'all. Thank you all for tuning in and putting up with my ADHD for that matter. But all right, love you guys. You guys have a good one.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Nick. Have a great night. All right, folks. So thank you all for joining us. Awesome to see you guys out there, and so many of you joined. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
As usual. And we'll be back next week, maybe on Saturday. I don't know. Thursday. Sure. We're still working it all out, but thank you again. And you guys be safe this weekend. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.
And we should have told them about the movie we watched. We were supposed to do that.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, babe.
Oh, we're here? No, we watched Abigail last night. You guys have got to watch that movie. It's really good. It's about like Dracula's daughter, somewhat, but yeah.
About a vampire.
She's a vampire. Don't see anything else, though. It's really, really good.
We liked it. All right.
And we highly, highly recommend it.
Absolutely. That's a shout out to Ghost Pirate Entertainment.
That's right.
Check out the Ghost Pirate on YouTube for your horror movie recommendations. Anyways, see you guys. Thank you.
I love you.
And this is Off the Cuff, and I'll be your host for this show and for other shows. Hopefully, maybe we can do this once in a while. So on this show, I'll voice my opinion. We'll talk about some ghosts, some mythical creatures, cryptozoology. We'll talk about a little bit about everything. A little bit about everything. That's okay. I mean, there's nothing sacrosanct here. We'll talk about everything.
So whether you're psychic, whether you're downloading information through technical remote viewing, whether you're having a dream about something, it is information. It's energy, basically, information, and it is translated into the information.
Okay. Now,
time doesn't matter, right? So I think once we get out of like the three dimensions, you start getting to the time dimensions, get into these things. How does that tachyon field relate to time?
Right. There is no time. There's never been any time. Einstein, he was lazy. He was a lazy kid. He was a lazy ass child. Okay. Loreto, Peru, which is in Alto Nani, which is a district of Lima. Okay, there is a small village there, which you pointed out on the map, and that there was buzzed by a white orbic UFO about 3 days ago, and they buzzed that city, and then it landed over into the jungle. Now, let me just back up. Every 10 years or so, this will happen. One time it was in Colombia, another time it was in Brazil, and they actually made a movie about it called The Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was sci-fi, but it was actually based on real events. And this is one of those real events. Now, you're